Hi, everyone. Good evening and welcome. I'm so thrilled you're here with us tonight. My name is Super Plus. I'm the general store manager at Bookmarks in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I am thrilled to welcome you. I first want to share a few announcements for tonight. We would like to remind you of the Bookmark Code of Conduct this evening. So that is for our event pages as well as on podcast. And like everybody, please be respectful to our author and speakers, be respectful for each other, and keep that chat window open for book talk and primarily questions for our guests tonight. Before we get started, I would like to share that Bookmarks is having a virtual fundraiser the next few weeks. Now, through September 26th, we have a goal of raising $1,000 for our nonprofit. All funds will support our outreach, author programming, and this fundraising celebration includes virtual author events like tonight's program. We have a challenge matching grant, dates with book raffles, and 75 silent auction items. As you know, we had a flood last week, which fortunately did not cause permanent damage to Bookmarks, but it did cause us to be closed for several days. So now more than ever, we appreciate your support. And I'll put the link to our fundraiser in the chat box. We are so sad that we can't have everyone in person. One of the things we love most at Bookmarks is to bring people together and celebrate books, especially new books that are coming into the world. But we are grateful that technology brings us together tonight so we can celebrate this new book with our community of readers and writers. I thought there's a quote on the back of this book that says, readers will move to think with intention and purpose and make mindful decisions that can positively impact and strengthen their relationships. And I think now more than ever in difficult times, this is the book talk that we need tonight. Oh no, I'm seeing that audio is in and out with some reverb. I just turned my volume down, so I hope that's going to get better. If you guys can say the reverb stop, it will help me. We're on a bit of a delay. I'm going to keep going, but first of all, let me know. That would be great. Having a hard time hearing. Okay, if I'm horrible, I am going to go through the introduction. I'm going to let Dara go ahead and introduce herself and Zoe and work on my internet in this tab. So let me bring our guests on live.
Hi, everyone. So I think everyone can hear me. When we were going through this before, I was having a little trouble hearing as well. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This is such a special night for me. I'm so thrilled that I Am My Mother's Daughter is out in the world. And I was a little worried that we weren't going to have a lot of people tonight because I feel like I've been doing so many virtual events, but Beth just told me that there's over 100 people tonight, and I am just so incredibly grateful and humbled that you're taking time out tonight to listen to Zoe and I. So I am so grateful to Bookmarks. And before we get started, I just want to thank them a little bit for their kindness and their support, and it just means so much. So please help me support Bookmarks by buying a book from Bookmarks. And it's also the only place where you're going to be able to get a signed copy. And we can also sign copies that you can request for your friends and family as well. So keep that in mind. So tonight, Zoe is here. Thank you, Zoe, for being here.
Of course.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about the book and kind of how it came to be. And then Zoe and I are gonna, we each prepared 3 questions for each other, but we didn't talk about this. We haven't discussed it at all because we wanted this to be really like a real, authentic conversation. So we each wrote 3 questions to ask each other, and we're going to see what happens. And I think hopefully we're going to all have a lot of fun. So here we go. When Zoe was about to go back to college, I've always had a really hard time with goodbyes, and I was kind of trying to stall a little bit. And she was in my room, and she was just kind of fumbling through some drawers, and she found what we used to call our mother-daughter journal. And when Zoe and my other daughter, her sister, Avi, when they were younger, I had a mother-daughter journal that I kept for each of them. And basically, I would write to Zoe, put it on her pillow. She would write to me, and she would put it on my pillow. We didn't have any rules, but it was just a really fun way for us to connect and communicate. And, sometimes if we were having a disagreement, we could sort of work things out through the journal. And so Zoe was about to go back to school. She was just opening up things in my room, and she found our mother-daughter journals. And we immediately started opening them. We were so excited to find them. And we couldn't believe just how it was priceless, how fun it was for us to kind of read these journal entries. We felt like we were going back into time. We felt like we could really remember kind of the way things were back when she was little. And so she ended up going back to school. But later on that night, I was thinking to myself, what I wouldn't do to have something like that from my mom, something where I could read and hear her voice, hear her words. And that's when I remembered this Ziploc bag of letters that I had sitting in a drawer in our den that had been sitting there for a really long time. And the Ziploc bag of letters contained letters written to me from the time I was 9 years old, when I first went to Camp Blue Star, until I graduated from college. And those letters were written to me by everyone in my family, my mom, my dad, my grandmothers, and my grandfathers, but mostly from my mom and my 2 grandmothers. And I had forgotten that I even had that bag until that conversation with Zoe. So I went and I opened up the drawer and I saw the bag. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not ready to do this. I'm not ready to open this bag and read these letters, because I was so worried that reading the letters would bring back a lot of sadness and grief that I'd worked so hard to kind of push away. So it wasn't until like a little bit of time went by, and finally one night I thought, you know what, I'm just going to read the letters. And one night I sat on the couch by myself and started reading the letters and sobbing, crying. But I was blown away by how much wisdom was in the letters. And I felt like I was having a conversation with my mom. I could feel her personality. I could hear her voice. And it's been 20 years since she passed away. She passed away a few weeks after I had Zoe. And learning how to live in the world without her has been one of the greatest challenges of my life. To have Zoe and be really happy about being a mom and having this new baby, and then having lost my mom at the same time, it was just a really hard time for me. And so kind of learning how to navigate in the world without having my mom has always been really, really hard for me. So reading these letters was an unbelievable gift, because I felt like I got to know my mom a little bit better. When she wrote the letters, she was a working mom who was in grad school, and she had kids, and I could kind of get a glimpse into what her life was like. And it really was something that I would never have expected to impact me the way it did. And it really changed everything for me. Just that one night sitting on the couch reading those letters, I finally was able to make peace with her death. I was finally able to maybe look some of the grief and the sadness in the eye and deal with it. And I got a much needed dose of her timeless wisdom through reading the letters. And I'm so grateful that that whole experience happened. And then I felt like, there's a book here. And I wasn't sure what that looked like. I was working on another project at the time. And I just put that away. And I sat literally in this room with my laptop and just started writing. And there were so many days that I would be sitting here writing and crying at the same time. And I hope that comes out when you read the book, because it really is written from my heart to the reader's heart. And we all go through hard times. We all lose people. And I hope that this book can help anyone who maybe has loved someone and lost them sort of maybe navigate that experience a little bit better. I know that it would have helped me a lot when I was going through that experience. So I'm so grateful to be here with this book. I'm really proud of it. Like I said, it truly is written from my heart and means so much to me. And I want to read one of my favorite quotes that from the letters. And there's over 100 letters in the bag, but this is one of my favorite quotes, or words of wisdom, as I've called them, from my mom. And this was written in 1990. Life is a way of working out. Life is a way of giving us the strength to meet the challenges before us. No one can predict what will be. The key is taking each day as it comes and making it work for you. Allow life's magic to unfold. And I think we're all sort of seeing that right now, especially with all the uncertainty in the world. No one can predict what will happen, but trusting and having faith and maintaining a positive attitude, I think, is so important. And really reading those letters from my mom and my grandmothers really helped me sort of reframe the way I viewed their death, and really helped me kind of make peace with what had happened and get back to the business of living. And I know that my grandmothers and my mom would never have wanted me to waste one day of my life being sad or staying in that grief space as long as I did. But at the same time, we do the best we can. And I'm so grateful to be where I am now. And hopefully this book will help a lot of people not only maybe go through the grief that maybe someone is dealing with, but also help them maybe connect more to the people in their life today. And I think especially right now with the pandemic and the coronavirus, we're all feeling a little disconnected. And hopefully this book is a reminder of ways that you can strengthen your own relationships and connect more with the people that you love and care about. So, Zoe, thanks for being here.
Of course. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you want to start? Let's just start our questions. And if anyone has any questions as you go through, feel free to ask us a question, and we're going to answer them all at the end. But so Zoe, do you want to ask me a question first?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. It's lagging on my computer. Am I not lagging with you?
It's okay. I can hear you fine.
So do you think it's weird that we're like friends now and we're sort of open with each other? Because I feel like now that I'm in college and we're kind of past, of course you're like my parent, but I feel like we're more in like the friends zone.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. Well, because I believe that there are different seasons of the mother-daughter relationship. And I think basically what you're saying is we've kind of entered into a new season. Because like you're not living at home, although we'll have to talk about when you were living here with the coronavirus, because I mean, you were living at home, but I mean, normally you're not really living at home now. And so we're not having these like daily issues of me saying, what time are you going to be home? Or are you really wearing that out in public? Or, we don't have any of that. All we have is the ability to really grow our friendship. And I do feel like we've kind of entered into that space. I feel like, I'm still your mom, and I'm going to tell you things that I feel like you need to hear, even if you don't want to hear it. And you've told me before that you've said no one irks you more on this planet than I do?
But you feel the same sometimes.
I do. I do feel the same. I think it's because we're so close so that we can, we know how to push each other's buttons. And I definitely feel like you feel that I know how to push your buttons like hardcore.
Because we're very similar.
Yeah. But I love this. I love this space that we're in now. I love that. I do feel like we're a little bit more friend zone. And no, you can tell me anything, Zoe. Because you said the question was, do I feel like you're so open and I'm open? No, I mean, I love that. I feel like, don't you feel like we have a real relationship?
I definitely think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like we're very open together.
Because I mean, honestly, like, what's the point of having a relationship if it's not real? And I'm not perfect. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I'm not perfect. But I'm not perfect. Yeah, I mean, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But no relationship is perfect. And so, I mean, I think that sometimes people forget that. Like, they look on Instagram or watch reality TV or whatever, and they see, like, maybe not reality TV, but I mean, they see, like, in the movies, the perfect life, the perfect relationship. And I mean, I don't think it really exists. And so that's just part of growing a relationship, is just sort of being open. And I love the space that our relationship is in. And it's so important to me. And I hope that we continue to grow, and that you continue to look at me as someone you can trust and count on, and you know, vice versa. It's such a gift.
I agree, and especially as I get older, I think it'll just even expand.
Yes, I agree. Okay, question number 1 for you, Zoe. All right, this is kind of a serious question. Okay, so, and I'm kind of curious about this, and I want you to kind of talk about it. I don't want you to just say like yes or no. I want you to kind of elaborate. But when you were growing up, did you feel the grief and the sadness that I was going through, like, while I was going through it? Because I mean, let's face it, you've been there the whole time. And I mean, there were definitely a lot of times when I was sad and you would see me cry, or I really did miss my mom. But I'm just curious, like, if you felt that, like, did you notice it? Or I don't know. We've never talked about it, but writing these questions, I was just kind of wondering kind of what your thoughts were on that.
I didn't really notice it because you didn't really tell me. And I was really young. When did
you fully get that, like, my mom wasn't here? And you might not even remember.
I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I always know, like, on her birthday, we do ice cream sundaes.
Yeah, tell everyone about that, because I think that's people always ask me, how can they bring in a loved one that maybe has passed away? How can they bring that person into their current life? And I love that you brought that up. Good job.
I just know, like, every November 14th, right?
Well, that was the day she passed away. Yeah, we did it. We did it twice.
We did it when she passed away. We did it on her birthday.
Exactly. We did it those 2 times.
Yeah. We would have ice cream sundaes.
So I feel like I just need to say that I didn't usually serve ice cream sundaes.
No, we never had ice cream sundaes. And so, like, when we did, we knew it was a
big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, it was special.
But I always knew to, like, be extra nice on those days. Avi and I knew not to push your buttons.
Okay.
Just because we didn't want you to be sad.
Yeah. So you felt that. You felt that this day maybe was a little bit different, or maybe I was a little bit more.
Yeah, well, we also just knew that we assumed that you.
Yeah.
But I honestly was kind of oblivious just because I was young.
Well, honestly, like, that makes me happy, like, to hear that, because I always felt like you deserve to have a happy mom. And I mean, I think that's a big reason of why, honestly, that like when I had you and then my mom passed away, I didn't fully like deal with the grief and the pain and the sadness. And I mean, what I've learned is that you can't run from grief. Like you have to, it's called grief work because you have to work through it. And like, no one can do it for you. You have to like give yourself permission to feel sad and think about the person and the loss and let yourself like release that pain. And because I always felt like you and Avi deserved a happy mom, a lot of times, like I kind of put that grief work on hold and, you know, wanted to focus on making your childhood as happy as it could be. And also, I mean, let's face it, maybe I wasn't ready to think about some of those things because it was painful. And so it kind of gave me an excuse to sort of dive in and focus on y'all. But I mean, that honestly, that makes me happy because I've worried about that. I've had a little bit of guilt about that. So, I mean, you know, Jewish guilt.
Well, reading your book, I think, made me feel guilty just because I didn't know and I couldn't be there for you.
You felt guilty reading the book?
Just because I didn't know how you were feeling.
Yeah, but it wasn't your job. It wasn't your job to feel guilty. Like I was never, I'm feeling guilty that you felt guilty. I mean, it's not your job. It wasn't your job to make me happy. It was, you know, you never need to feel guilty about anything, any of that. I mean, it was my own stuff that I needed to work through. And yeah. I'm glad that you didn't feel it. So anyway, but thank you for that. All right. Do you have another question for me?
Oh yeah. What is your favorite letter that you've received?
Okay. What is my favorite letter? I don't really have a favorite letter. I've been asked that a lot lately. I feel like I've been doing a ton of podcasts and people are always like, what's your favorite letter? But I don't really have a favorite letter because every letter sort of was like a glimpse into who my mom was from my adult perspective now, today, me reading those letters. And so, like, you know, when I first went to camp and got the letters, and as I continued to get the letters, I would read them and then put them in the envelope and move on. I didn't like savor the contents of the letters. I didn't think about it like I am now. And so now when I read the letters, I didn't really have a favorite except for one. There is one that stands out, and you're going to laugh when I say this, but so when I went to the University of Alabama orientation with my mom, I went out one night during.
Oh, is this what you're talking about?
I went out one night during orientation, and I went to a party. I did not have a cell phone. You know, we didn't have cell phones back in the day, so I'm showing my age for sure. But I ended up staying out really late. I didn't call. She had no idea where I was. I wasn't at like the scheduled orientation event. And I went back into the hotel, and my mom had written a letter, and she had the letter was on the floor when I walked into the hotel room. And basically it said like, it was this whole letter, which I put in the book, about basically how she was worried sick and I wasn't being very respectful of her and just blah, blah, blah. And then it said like, come to my room immediately. And so I remember standing in the hallway at the Sheraton Hotel. She was in her nightgown. I had a buzz from going to like my first fraternity party. And we were like hashing it out in the hallway. But the reason that I know it's a weird letter to like, but the reason that I like that is because I feel like it shows that we really had such a real relationship. And, you know, I wasn't perfect. And I love the fact that that letter was in that bag, because I don't want to just remember like all the great times and all the perfect things, because life isn't perfect. It's messy. And it's real. And I had actually forgotten that whole story until I read that letter. And I don't know, it just kind of reminds me like of how much she loved me so much that we were in the middle of the hallway at like 12 o'clock midnight having this argument, you know, and it kind of stands out in my mind. And I think it's funny now. And I think if she were here, she would be laughing about that too. But I love how we had like a real relationship and all the good times and the hard times. Okay. So, all right, here's another serious question. I'm sorry about, I guess when I was doing this, I was kind of like in a serious mood. All right. And I want you to answer this honestly. Okay. So do you worry about something happening to me and then it being really hard for you to deal with the grief and the pain, having watched me have such a hard time with the loss of my mom? I know that's a heavy question, but well, I think we were having a real conversation.
I think all children worry about that. I don't think that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. I do agree with that. But do you worry that, like, I mean, basically, I think it's accurate to say that I was stuck in grief for a really long time. Do you worry that, like, the way that I navigated through it, and I don't think that I necessarily handled it the best possible way that I could have. I mean, I don't judge myself for it. I did the best I could at the time. It is what it is. But do you ever worry about that, or you just don't?
I'm never worried about me in that sense. I just don't want anything to happen to you. But I just because I've seen, like, I've experienced you sick, and I don't want to experience that again. But I think that experience makes me worried more.
I can understand that. And I mean, that's one of the things that I hate about, like, having that little blemish on my report card of life is that, you know, we had that little cancer situation. It's almost been 7 years, but I mean, I hate that, but I also feel like it's brought us all so much closer, and we all live so much more intentionally and more joyful because of what we went through. And so I just try to focus on all the good things. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, if that's one thing that we're all kind of taking away from this time with the pandemic, is that there's no guarantees for anyone. I mean, that's why we all owe it to ourselves to make every single day of our lives count, and to not take anything for granted, and to really make sure that we tell the people that we love how we feel, and grow those relationships, because I mean, there's no guarantees for anyone. But I do just want to say this to you, and then we can get back to keeping it light. But I definitely feel like, you know, I want to live for a really long time. You know, I plan on being around here for a really long time. But, you know, if God forbid something did happen to me, like, I don't want you to get stuck in grief the way I was stuck in grief. So basically what I'm saying is, like, do every possible thing you can do to help yourself move through that, because I know that my mom would not have wanted me to waste 1 second of my day or of my life, like, focusing on what I lost. And, you know, I think any parent wants that for their kids. We want you to be the happiest that you can be and make the most of every day of your life. But I'm planning on sticking around for a really long time. So you're stuck with me.
Good.
So, okay. We'll keep. We'll get it back to being light, but, you know, I feel like some of that we have to talk about, because it's part of it. And I promised everyone that we would have a real conversation, because, I mean, what's the point of doing this if we're not going to be real, and we're not going to be, you know, upfront and honest about everything?
True. Okay, so on a lighter note. I feel like I was a very easy child to raise. Never, you know, snuck out or anything like that. But what was the hardest thing about raising me?
Yeah, so you were a really easy child to raise. In fact, this is kind of a funny story, but so after Zoe, it was like the night of high school graduation, and we were sitting with a group of moms and their daughters, and we were all, like, super, super close. And we were all kind of all the moms, we were saying to our daughters, we're like, okay, tell us all of it now. Tell us what you did that you didn't that we didn't know about. You know, don't hold back. We're not going to be mad. Share it. and they're all like, we don't have anything to share. Like,
we were so good.
I know. You're like, we know everything. We don't have anything to tell you. Anyway, you were very easy. What was the hardest thing? Okay. I think honestly, like the hardest thing is just like letting go a little bit, like backing up a little bit and giving you your space and your, I'm not going to say freedom, but like just respecting that you have the right to make choices for yourself, for your own life. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, I don't want you to live your life based on what I want you to do. I want you to live your life based on what you want to do. But that's not always easy. And so I would say for me, just because I do think I tend to kind of love tightly. I mean, I do. That it's just the hardest thing is kind of backing off a little bit and giving. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you just love to, like, you love to
smother you.
No, you don't smother me.
Okay.
But you definitely love to, I don't have a word for it.
I mean, I feel like the older you get, I mean, of course, like I want us to live close to each other. And, you know, of course I want us to just get to spend, look, you know, I really acknowledge that like time is such a precious commodity and I want us to be able to spend as much time together as possible. But I also, you know, I have to be realistic and like give you a little bit of your space and you deserve to have that. But
you're very loving.
I'm just being honest. Like that's probably my greatest challenge is just.
Wow, I think you're a great mom.
Loving a little looser. From now on, if I'm starting to kind of like smother you or love too tightly, you can just be like, Mom.
No, I want you to love me. I want you to love me tightly.
Well, I'm glad that you say that because I'm not really sure I could stop. Anyway, okay. So let me see. All right, Zoe, my last question to you. What would you say to other mothers or daughters or anyone listening to this, anyone who is a dad or a mom or daughter or son or just anyone, what would you say to them if they want to grow their relationships, but they don't really know how? Because I feel like this is really important and I want us to talk about it, but I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I have 3 things.
Oh, okay. Just like that. You have 3 things. Awesome.
Well, they kind of all go together.
Okay.
But communication is really important. I feel like you and I were really good at communicating.
Yeah.
Like when I was upset or you were upset, we would talk about it.
Yeah. Even if like you knew it was going to hurt my feelings and vice versa. Like.
Yeah, because if you hold it all in, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And then active listening, because if we're just like sitting there and not listening to what you're saying, then I'm not going to understand it.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that like was really helpful, and I think just helpful in like any relationship, is just knowing like the love languages. Like you and I, like we did this like a while ago with our entire family, as we all took the love languages quiz.
Yeah. So Gary Chapman is actually from Winston-Salem, and he is the author of Love Languages, and he was on my podcast, which, okay, this is a shameless plug for my podcast, Thrive, the podcast with Garth and Dara, but he was on my podcast, and so we gave everyone in our family that test to take.
Yeah, and you and I were both like quality time was our number 1. So that was a way that we knew for our relationship, one way that like we could really like improve it or not improve. We didn't like, you know, one way we could benefit both of us was just spend quality time together. But for Avi, like one of her top ones was like words of affirmation. So that's one way to like make her feel loved.
Yes, you're right. It's kind of like figuring out what the person's love language is. I think that's true. You know, another thing about just growing your relationships that I think is super important is just trying not to trying to not judge that other person. Because if you want to have a real relationship with someone and you want them to be vulnerable and open up with you, you have to trust that they're not going to judge you. And so, like, I feel like I've tried to tell you and Avi that, you know, you can come and talk to me about anything. I'm going to try not to judge you for whatever the situation is. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's even more important now than ever, because just like with there's so many things in the world right now with the coronavirus and the election and Black Lives Matter. I mean, there's so many different areas where people just need to remember to like not judge each other, because you can't grow a relationship if you feel like the other person is judging you. And I don't know, I think that's important. But I liked what you said about communication and just active listening. Do you remember that night that we were at the mountains recently? You, me, and Avi, and we sat around the couch and we were like,
okay. It was painful.
It was painful. Yeah. So I feel like we should tell everyone about that. So we sat around, this was recently.
This was like in quarantine.
It was in quarantine, and we were spending a lot of time with each other, and we were kind of getting on each other's nerves a little bit. And we were in the mountains, and we're like, okay, we're going to go around and everyone's going to say like, how did we do it? We were like, we're going to.
I think what was happening is you and Avi were kind of in a little tiff, and I was being the mediator, or not, you weren't tiffing.
No, you're right. You were. But you were like, okay, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear.
That's what you need to do. And y'all were saying what was bothering you. And so we ended up just going around saying like what we wanted the other person to hear.
Yes. We were like, okay, we're going to be brutally honest, and we're going to say what you need to hear. And we're going to just like get it all out. And then we ended, and then we're like, we're going to say what we love about you. Like we ended up, you know,
we ended up sitting for like 2 hours just hanging out.
Yeah, it was like actually such a good conversation. But here's the takeaway for everyone watching. If you have something that you have been holding in that you are like needing to tell the other person to grow your relationship, I almost feel like you owe it to that person to sit down and have an honest conversation and release it and get it out so that you can work through it. Because I mean, a lot of times, unless you talk it through, it doesn't go away. And it's all about how you say it. So, I mean, we were all very respectful of each other and we were kind. Mm-hmm. But I think it really helped us because we needed to kind of like get through some of it, release some of it. So anyway, I think those are ways that you can grow your own relationships. So, okay, Beth, that was really the end of, I don't have any other questions that for Zoe, and I think I want to make sure we have enough time to answer any questions. So if anyone wants to ask a question, please type it in the comments, and I'll be able to read it, or Beth can if your audio isn't 100%, I'll be able to read it. But please feel free to ask Zoe and I any questions at all. I mean, we love to just be open and honest and, you know, ask away.
How's my audio?
What?
How's the audio?
Your audio is not 100%, if I'm being really honest. Yeah. Yeah.
I have another window open.
Okay.
Close it. If everything goes away, y'all, it won't. Just hang tight.
Okay.
I think that's why we're getting the feedback.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I see someone asked a question. Thank you so much for asking a question. Okay. Beth says, Dara, do you ever hear yourself saying something that your mom would say? Oh my gosh. I hear myself say things that my mom would say every single day. And I love that. And I mean, I do really feel like I am my mother's daughter, like in so many ways. And yeah, I feel like just in the way that, and maybe it's because of the fact that I recently read the letters and her voice is in my mind or in my head now more than ever before, but maybe I'm paying more attention to it. But I definitely feel like I say a lot of things that she said, or I don't know, maybe I I think I tend to be kind of, I'm not going to say hyper, but high energy sometimes. And I think she was like that. And, you know, I love that. And Zoe, I mean, I think you kind of say things that I say sometimes. And I love that. Like, I love how, you know, that's like the whole thing about just the whole connection between one generation to the next. Like, I'm my mom's daughter and you're my daughter and she's your grandmother. But I mean, we're all so connected, and I love that. Like the other day, someone was interviewing me and they know you and they were like, oh my gosh, you just sounded exactly like Zoe. Like I wasn't even sure it was you for a second. And so I love that. So Jen says, do you think going through cancer has made you more transparent in all aspects of your life? 1,000% yes. That's a great question. I definitely feel like I have no desire to try to pretend like everything is great or that I'm perfect, or if everything's not great. Like for so long, I felt like, especially dealing with my mom's death, I just, you know, put on a happy face and kind of convinced myself that I was great and told everyone that I was fine when I wasn't fine and I wasn't great. And, you know, it's exhausting to try to pretend, and it's exhausting to, you know, just put that much pressure on yourself. And so giving yourself grace and just being open and honest, for me, like it's been really freeing. But definitely like going through breast cancer 6.5 years ago has definitely made me just be like, you know what, this is who I am. And I'm fully okay with the fact that, you know, not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. They're not my people. You know, and so I think going through that really sort of maybe gave me permission to let go of all that stuff. In fact, today I emailed a really big person. You know, I think she's a very, very big, she's a big platform. And my publisher had asked her if she wanted a copy of my book, and she said she did, and she was really excited to read it. And so I emailed her today to follow up about whether or not, I wanted to know what she thought of it. And I mean, honestly, like I want her to share it on her platform. Like, let's be real. But so it's only been about a week since I emailed her the first time, or since my team did. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to email her today. And I emailed her and I was like, you know what? I know I'm not handling this in a very cool manner, but here's the thing. I'm actually really not cool, and I'm tired of trying to pretend like I am. So I just, you know, really want to know what you think of the book. And so anyway, I don't want to pretend. Okay. Josh says, do you see your mom's qualities in Zoe and Avi? Yeah, I do. And I love that so much. To me, that's just something that's really, really special, that I see a lot of my mom's qualities in both my daughters. And again, that's what I'm saying about that whole connection between generations, and just like, what is our legacy and what do we want to teach this generation, so that they can carry things into the future with people that maybe I'll never meet. So yeah, I do. Zoe's probably one of the kindest people that I've ever met. And I think that my mom was really, really kind and really selfless. And Avi is a total go-getter. And I think my mom was a lot like that. And of course, I mean, Zoe is a go-getter and Avi is very kind also, but those are just things that kind of stand out in my mind. Okay, what are your tips for writing a letter to a loved one? So I have so many tips. Please buy my book. Please buy my book from Bookmarks. But in the book, there's at least a chapter dedicated to that. But I mean, I would say at the end of the day, the biggest tip is just to write from your heart. Just like not try to impress anyone, just write from your heart. And I really believe that the reader will feel that, and your loved one, the person, the recipient of the letter, will be able to feel that you were writing from your heart. And you know, things don't have to be perfect. You don't have to write a letter that doesn't have, you know, it can have misspelled words or things crossed out or whatever. It's just, it's what that letter says, and you know, how honest and open and real you want to be, that I think the recipient will really, really be able to feel. Let's see. Do you think your memoir is also relevant for father-daughter relationships, or is the mother-daughter relationship different? You know, Garth Callahan is my podcast partner, and I don't think he's on here tonight because he's actually not feeling well. He's fine. He had a kidney stone. But he said that after reading this book, he really felt that it was a very good book for the father-daughter relationship as well. I mean, I do think that the mother-daughter relationship can be a little bit different, and I don't have sons, so I can't really speak to that, or the father-daughter relationship. I mean, I'm super close to my dad. Hi, Dad. I think you're here. I mean, I'm really close to my dad, and I think a lot of what I wrote is relevant to our relationship. And again, I think it's just about the connection and being open and honest and showing up and having that desire to grow your relationship and accept people for who they are and where they're coming from. And really just thinking that people are showing up being the best version of themselves, like expecting people to show up and want to have a good relationship with you. I think all that is really important. Dara, how did you finally get past your grief? Yeah, so if I'm being super honest, this whole experience is really what helped me get through dealing with all of the grief. Finally, like letting myself sit and cry and release it all and get it all out, and just hearing my mom's voice and the fact that she valued life so much. And again, just like it was such a reminder that she would not have wanted me to waste my life being sad. So that was really a big part of it. And I think that's why just this Ziploc bag of letters was so impactful to me, because it really was a game changer in terms of how I was able to deal with my grief. And also just giving myself permission to like let it go and release it, and finally just let myself be as happy as I can be. So anyway, I feel like that was really helpful. I feel like I skipped a question. I don't know what's going to happen if I push this button. Can you see it? It was from Art. Oh, wait, there we go. All right.
No, there was one before. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
No, I did that one. Okay. What was the most memorable thing your mom said, and how often does it come out in your conversation? So she used to say something all the time. She would be like, "It's no problem." She would just say that like all the time. "It's no problem. We could be camping in the middle of the rain," which every time my family went camping, it did rain. And I don't really like camping, but every time we went camping, it would rain. And my mom would always be like, "It's no problem." And I just remember that she said that a lot, like with whatever was going on, like the car broke down in the middle of the street. "It's no problem." You know, it was just kind of like, I guess like her coping mechanism. And also just like, she had a lot of perspective on what was important and what wasn't important. And so do I ever say that, Zoe? I don't know if I do.
I think maybe sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah. Okay. Oh no, I just did something and all the questions went away.
I'll read them to you.
Okay.
This is from Elizabeth Lee. Hi, Dara. After dealing with grief myself, I feel like our society doesn't understand or know how to deal with a grieving person. Did you find this to be true in your case? If so, how can we help change this for someone grieving?
Okay. That is probably one of the biggest things that I've learned through all this, is that, yes, I agree with you 100%. I don't think our society does not talk about how to handle it when you lose someone you love, how to deal with grief, how to manage it, how to process it. You're 100% right. And doing all of the podcasts that I've been doing lately and really having like a lot of beautiful conversations with people, I feel like I didn't even realize it until now that we don't talk about it. And I I didn't talk about it for 20 years until now. I mean, this book gave me the space to start talking about it. And I'm so glad I did. And that's really one of the reasons that I wrote this book, is that I'm hoping that it really can help people. I'm hoping that it can be a tool to help people navigate through a situation where their heart is broken and they find themselves like not knowing what to do or how to move forward. And, pretending like you're fine when you're not fine is really not the solution. And I did that for a long time. I think really just like accepting the situation, whatever the situation is so important. And for so many years, I didn't want to accept the fact that my mom had passed away. I could not accept it. I didn't want to accept it. And then I was so angry about it. I felt like we had been given a bad deal. I felt like she had gotten a bad deal. There was just so many things there. But I'm hoping that this book really helps people as they navigate through that, and maybe provides more of a conversation piece. And also, I am shocked at the number of people that have reached out to me in the last couple weeks. I mean, my book really just released September 1st. And truthfully, it didn't even really release on September 1st because half the people didn't even get the book on September 1st. So I've heard from so many people that have said to me, like, I lost my mom when I was young and I felt so alone. I felt like nobody understood, or I didn't know how to move forward, or I recently lost my mom, and even though she was older, I'm still feeling a lot of pain. I mean, I think we all need to be more aware of it, especially, unfortunately, our country has lost a lot of people. So more people now are dealing with loss maybe at one time than even ever before. And so just like if you know someone and they've recently lost a loved one, just letting them know that you're there and that you know that it's a hard time for them, and just giving them the space to kind of open up and be open and honest about it. I think it's some really great conversations can happen from that, but also you can grow relationships with people when you have real conversations like that. And so I think it's really important. And I mean, who knows, maybe after all this, I'll lead some kind of, some kind of groups or something to help people as, I don't know. I think there's a lot of really cool things that are going to come from this book and from that space, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Thank you for asking that. Zoe, are there any more questions?
There's 3 comments.
Okay. Can you read them? Because I can't see anything.
Yes. Gail says, hi, Gail. She says, grief is so complex and different for everyone. You're so fortunate to have those memories of your mom. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I recognize that I had such a close relationship with my mom, and that made it that much harder. But you're right, grief is different for everyone. And I mean, that's the whole thing about not judging people, just like letting them go through the grief in the best way that is for them, that works for them. And there's 2 more. Okay. From Claudia. She said, one of the things I loved about your Crush Cancer book is the tips you give to friends and caregivers on what to do, what to say. So helpful. Thank you. Okay. And then one more from Dara. She says, thank you for your words. They are very meaningful to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just wanted to say thank you again to Bookmarks for hosting us tonight. We are so grateful. I am just unbelievably, incredibly grateful to the community for supporting Bookmarks, for supporting this book. I did want to just say that, the holidays are coming up, and Christmas and Hanukkah. And if you're thinking about what to get someone, think about giving them this book and get it from Bookmarks. And I can autograph it for you. We can sign it, and we can dedicate it to them. But give them this book and write them a letter. That is the gift that will mean so much more to them. I mean, think about it. We're not going anywhere. They don't need an ugly sweater from wherever. I mean, people don't need stuff. They need words from the heart. They need connection. And so I ask you to really think about
this book when you're thinking about your holiday list. And, you know, please consider supporting it from Bookmarks. I think the book is like, what, $24? I mean, you could literally get a gift for $24. And I promise you, if you write a letter to that person, which the book talks about how to do that, that is going to be a much more meaningful gift than you could ever give someone than some random item that they probably don't even want. So that's my shameless plug. But thanks again for being here, and to Bookmarks, and for everyone who's supporting this book right now. It means so much. And please leave a review on Goodreads or Amazon if you read the book. It really matters. So Beth, is there anything else we need to?
I think my audio went out.
No, you sound.
Can you hear me?
You sound the best now. Yes, I can totally hear you. Yes, perfect. I don't think she can hear me, and now I can't. Zoe, can you see what she just typed? Because
she said my audio went out, but thank you to everyone for joining us tonight.
Okay, yes. All right, so we're going to sign off. Thank you all so much for being here. Email me if you have any questions, Dara@crazyperfectlife.com. And again, you know, take the time to connect with the people that you love and tell them how you feel. It really matters. Mwah. Bye. Thanks, Zoe. Call me.